Welcome to the Mortgage Marketing Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Shive. And if my voice or my name doesn't sound familiar, that's okay. I am doing a guest podcast takeover. So, no, I'm not Jeff, and no, Jeff's not going to be joining us this episode. But I promise you're in for a treat because we have a great guest on today's show. So, we are going to be talking with Abdel Khawatmi. He is a top 1% producer with PRMG over in New Jersey. He is a team leader and originating loan officer. He is coached. He is all of the things. And so we're going to dive deep today into his business on his systems, a little bit of his story, and really how he, as a top producer and an originating branch manager, how is he using AI? And not just dabbling in it, but how has he personally incorporated AI in his own personal production? But then how has he systematically built that into his entire business process, from his virtual assistants to his front end processors to his originators? All from top to bottom, he is all in. We're also going to hear some really great ideas on how he is staying sticky with in-person events. I promise that is one of the best parts of this. Some of the things that he's doing, I've never heard a loan officer do before. And then he's going to end the show with some really great advice. What's one thing that you can be doing today to lean into adopting AI to level up your systems and build in more efficiency and more opportunity for growth? So with that, I'm going to stop gabbing and we're going to get right into today's episode. Abdel, for people who don't know you, which if you don't know Abdel, all of the links, everything's going to be in the show notes. So at the end of this, you need to go follow every place that he is because he is somebody that you want to have in your ecosystem. But for people that don't know who you are, can you give us like a 60-second version of like, who are you? How long have you been doing this? And let us know, like, just for frame of reference, how many units did you do last year? What are you on track for? And just go for it. Jump
You
right
like
in.
that. Love it. So first off, thank you for having me on. Appreciate it. My name is Abdel Khawatmi. I'm with PRMG. We run our brand Got Mortgages. We've got 2 locations in Jersey, several outside of the state as well. We did personally 121 units individually last year, just a hair under 40 million. Our team within our entire region for Jersey did well over 90 million and then some. We have been in the business for 8 years. So since 2018. So I always say it's 8 dog years because of just the crap that we get thrown at us. And from several stuff I've shared before, right? It's always like the pre-COVID to pre-COVID to COVID to post-COVID to what I categorize now as post-COVID. And we crank away, right? Head down, extremely modern day driven approach. But we're also Jersey guys, right? And gals. So we're just, what do we got? What do we need to do? How can we get things done? How can we execute? And that's kind of our motto, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I always say I have 3 clients in my hemisphere, in my position. I have my consumers, obviously, who are looking to buy or refi. I've got our referral partners, which is a spider web of, real estate agents, title attorney, financial advisors. We just ran a pretty cool mastermind yesterday about AI. I know I shared my notes with you previously. And then the last, and obviously one of the biggest ones are our loan officers, right? Catering to our loan officers, understanding that if you're a loan officer out there, there's no one right way to be successful in this business, right?
Mhm.
Which is the cool part, right? So you could be somebody who's seasoned for 20, 30 years and running a business a very successful way. You could be somebody in the business for 20 or 30 seconds running a business a certain way, kind of that happy median between the two, right?
Yeah.
And we
Well,
take it from that.
it's cool because I mean, I like how you frame that because especially in lending, like it really is like a choose your own adventure. You can, just as you're saying, you can build whatever business you want. That is the one thing I love about this industry is you can be as successful as you want. You can come into this industry with no background and be whatever you want, and vice versa. So I know you have a background actually before you were in mortgage that you were in law, not as a lawyer, but in, law firm in general. So can you talk about us? Like, that's not a typical path. So what was the journey of going from having a successful career managing a law firm to, well, I want to completely pivot and become a mortgage advisor?
Yeah, so I love getting this question all the time, right? Because And I say this as nobody in second grade walked up right during career day and said that they wanted to be a mortgage guy or any,
Mhm.
frankly, sales professional, right? We're always programmed. My parents are first generation when they came here. So it was always like, you got to be a lawyer, you got to be a doctor, and you got to be whatever. And now, obviously, we're blessed to, exceed that. So I originally was going to school at Rutgers, so Rutgers University. I met my beautiful wife there now, 18 freaking years ago, which
Wow,
is
congrats.
pretty
That's a big
insane.
deal.
That's yeah. I still don't know how she tolerates my shit. Not me tolerating her, but that's a whole
It's
nother
true.
combo.
It's true.
So we met freshman year of college, right? She was a soccer player and I was the gorilla, juice head in the gym, which is kind of how we met. We were both going for political science, which is where I was going for the law route. I was always a good student, thank God. We're always knuckleheads and part of a fraternity and the whole college jazz. Um, then she got pregnant senior year of college. So this is going back 2011, and you were like, "Holy crap! All right, my whole life is going to change and all that stuff."
Hmm.
We had been together at that time for about just a hair under 4 years. So I was like, "Okay, well, it looks like we're blessed now." She just turned 14, which is
Dang.
pretty insane. Um, yeah. So we ended up going that route, and I had a choice, right? Do I go to law school, which is the reason why I went to Rutgers, because in Jersey they have a phenomenal law school program, and I had to unfortunately forego that side. Well, fortunately now, and then actually go and run a PI firm, personal injury, for several years. I always kind of was, I guess, regimented and being extremely structured and organized. And I quickly went to being the right hand, right under the managing partner. And I'm regimented. I mean, just like you and I, sometimes I
You are
text. I'm like,
insanely
how
regimented.
early, how early do I text,
Yep.
somebody, especially because we've got such a huge national reach. So
Yeah.
I always forget because I'm a 4 a.m.er. So
Right.
when I text somebody, I'm like, I hope that I'm not texting them super early.
Yeah.
And I always have to like start out with excuse the early text,
Yeah.
because it's like whatever. Um, and so I ended up going and managing this firm for quite some time. I was the liaison with the attorneys, managing the attorneys. Did you file your complaints? Because PI, so Jersey's 2 year statute of limitations. Did you get it done? Did you answer your discoveries? Do your motions? Did you prep for trial? Did you get your summary judgments and all that stuff? So I was really well versed in that world. The goal was to eventually get back into law school, right?
Got it.
So I
Okay.
was there for quite some time. The firm was literally ready to subsidize. And I actually ended up not going to school and getting my master's in risk and compliance from Montclair State, which is another state university in Jersey.
Hmm.
Still with the goal intention of now going and getting into law school. And then what started happening too is as we were settling a lot of cases, what do you usually do when you get a lot of money? You want to buy a house or buy something of that nature. And I was generally the person that handed them off to colleagues and stuff with no intention of wanting anything in return. Just, hey, dude, like take care of them. They're my
Sure. Yeah.
boys.
Yeah.
And the common complaint, I say this all the time, that what makes us uber successful in today's market and what many referral partners want is communication, right?
Hmm.
And the common complaint I got was this person didn't get back to me, that person didn't get back to me. I'm still waiting to hear back. Can you nudge them? I literally would find myself nudging people like, yo,
Right.
bro, did you text this person?
Which is wild because communication is the one thing that you can absolutely control and own, and yet you think it's the easiest low-hanging fruit, and yet you're absolutely right. So many people have poor communication skills, poor follow-up skills. So you're highly structured. You're in a law firm. You have access to kind of liaise between a database. There's already high trust between your team there, and you're doing
Mhm.
handoffs to loan officers. And then I imagine you have this light bulb of like, I could do it better. So let me go
Exactly.
prove them wrong. Is
Yep.
that,
Yeah, pretty much. So basically, it was like, well, I'm still stuck in being in this liaison, and frankly,
Mhm.
I've got wife, I've got a kid. I could probably do this shit myself,
Yeah,
right? Went, took a class Monday to Friday, took the exam Saturday, passed, and ever since then, been with the same institution, and all that fun stuff. 8 years now.
cool.
So started off as an originator, and then very, very quickly, my mindset was I got to shift focus, and
Yep.
I attribute a little bit of luck to it too,
Hmm.
as crazy as that sounds, but I was still at the firm while being an originator, as I'm sure many people who are stuck with their foot first
Hmm.
unless your parents were in the business or family members were in the business or you got kind of handed a book of business, you generally sometimes start part-time and then you
Mhm.
end up saying, okay, here's it. So kind of what
I've
happened was
gotta
I
go
did.
all in. Yeah. Yep.
Totally. And I kind of wished back then, right? We always tell ourselves, we're like, I wish I went all in. And it's like, well,
Mhm.
God had it structured for you that you were going to live your life and do things. And to your point, I was using essentially a segue from both sides of client
Mhm.
database
Yep.
from the firm while simultaneously doing, the mortgage side and real estate side. 1 month in July, I had 6 closings in 1 month. And back then, margins are a lot different than today.
Mhm.
And I'm like, hold up, there's something here, right? And
Yeah.
I was making very good money at the firm.
Yeah,
I said,
sure.
yeah, dude, I'm going to dive in face first, November of 2018. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go all in. I've got a semi, database of about a year and a half. We jumped in face first and then boom, COVID hit. Right. And then back then it was a wild, wild west. And it's a conversation now because now we're back into the ebbs and flows of rates are kind of
Mhm.
like slowly trickling down. Put the international turmoil, that will eventually subside, but rates are slowly ticking down. So now, 8 years later, I have a database to refi.
Right, right.
And
So
I'm
let's
a purchase money heavy lender. I did not during COVID, right?
right. Which is cool.
Yeah,
It's like if you can build your business in the absolute downturn, which a lot of loan officers that are kind of in that 10-year time frame of where you're currently at, I really think like the sky's the limits because if you can build and prove yourself in the hardest conditions, I mean,
yeah,
anybody could be successful in COVID when they had a book of business and I mean, you just like it's raining opportunity. And that's not been
yeah.
the case for so long now, which, you kind of have that upside advantage of like, sky's the limit. So, what I know about you personally, because you and I have a personal friendship outside of this, you are an implementer. I mean, like, you have an idea and, like, you take it to the 10th degree and, like, you've developed and executed, like, 24 hours post ideation. So I wanna talk a little bit about your adoption for AI because I think you really, as a loan officer in this space, you are far ahead of where most people are in terms of not dabbling in ChatGPT for, a meal plan or, a gym workout, but, like, you've all in incorporated it into your team, your workflow, like AI is embedded in your brain.
Oh, yeah.
Like, walk me through back to that moment when you realized AI is not a trend, and how were you going to take AI and have it be a non negotiable for your team and your client experience?
Yeah, I love it. So the way I always look at things, right, is my business from the beginning, right? When I went and said, I'm opening up my own branch, I'm gonna do this. At the end of the day, everything comes down to profitability. Everything comes
Mhm.
down to efficiency, operations, and all that. So we've got a phenomenal team of offshore assistants that work directly for me. There's
Like
no third
virtual
party
assistants.
company, correct? Yeah.
Okay.
And I always thought to myself, the hardest part when you work with any employees in general, right? Whether you're a C executive or whoever it is kind of the okay, I want an employee to do something a certain way, but I
Mhm.
don't want to spend the time to
Mhm.
tell them what I want because I also don't know what I want, if that makes
Sure.
sense, right? So, and it trickled down, right? From a $30 an hour employee to a $20 an hour employee to a, affordable hour employee, let's put it like that on the offshore and stuff. So the reason why I bring that up is I think it also like I didn't just dive face first into this, right? I
Sure.
worked through managing attorneys and telling them how we wanted things structured in a certain way to then switching it and managing employees, right? Here and then going into offshore assistance to the point where I had 7. And then over the last year and a half, we've cut it down to 3 because of the efficiency that I have trained my core ones on artificial intelligence, right?
Got it.
Now, going into AI, I don't know when the light bulb happened because I think, like most of us, you end up, as many of us do, start dabbling in certain stuff. Like, let me play around with chat. Oh, I was introduced to this platform. Let me play with that. I was introduced to that platform. Let me play around with that. And then, in my opinion, you end up in a position where you're not really mastering any of them, right? That
Mhm.
cliche saying of, the jack of all trades is the master of none. And I think that's where I was like, all right, I'm going to somewhat, and this might go against popular opinion and wherever the hell everybody wants to see recently with the news, but I've kind of gotten in with like chat, right? it was like the forefront with ChatGPT. It was kind of like there, but I use it more not just for like, hey, make me a cartoon image of this, or to your
Sure.
point, make me a meal prep and
Yeah.
make me a workout and stuff. Although I literally have a project for that that's there. But I started getting really fun into it where I'm like, hey, this is how I want this done. Here's
Mhm.
an SOP in place, right? That is broken down because we're using a platform that records my screen with Scribe or whatever is out there. And this is moving forward how I want it to be done. So I was doing the exact same thing for my offshore admins, right?
Okay.
But obviously, what I started noticing is okay, if I can train this regimented technology platform to do it somewhere, what I have found is when I came back and asked it to do it again, it did it
Mhm.
exactly how I wanted it.
Hmm.
Human error was when I gave something a specific task to do and I came back and told you to do the same thing a week later, 2 weeks later, you made mistakes.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, so there's obviously a part where I have to now get back in the mix, right? And they don't call me the gorilla for no reason. I get very frustrated when I have gone and said something to you and I've given you an SOP, a breakdown, a whole thing, and you still mess it up. Then it's like, all right, now you're kind of wasting my time to an extent, Mr. and
Mhm.
Mrs. Employee. And we started just dabbling in even more. And it starts, I break my business down. You've heard me say a lot, right? Sales, service, and support.
Mhm.
So I started breaking it down from sales perspective into how am I going to use it for my B2B clients? How am I going to use it for my B2C clients? Right. And then you break it even further. Mine is so embedded from an operational perspective, we're behind the scenes, right? A lot of
Mhm.
our, frankly, letter of explanations that conform by Fannie and HUD guidelines are being structured based on the conversation with the consumer with a little bit of a sprinkle of artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
Our AI is trained on how to calculate Schedule E and Schedule C income calculations, which might not seem like a lot of stuff for people who are seasoned. But if you're a new originator out there, obviously practice is going to make perfect. But what if I gave you training wheels for
Mhm.
freaking life? You could probably ride that bike,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Right.
what AI, it's in my opinion, it's somewhat of a cheat code, and that's why we're seeing that, a younger generation, in my unbiased opinion, having that upper hand advantage versus some of the professionals that have been doing it for 20 or 30 years. There are some that are absolute monsters, and there are a good majority, like we've seen the exit of the business, right? Like three
Yeah.
quarters of it have gone. And I attribute a big portion of that to technology and AI because they are having that failure to execute and implement, while maybe some of the younger ones are like, I don't know any better.
Yeah.
So I think this is the way to go. Right.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I love just to kind of reiterate what you're saying is it sounds like you knew the power and the potential of AI and you were able to look forward and be like, this thing is coming like a freight train. How do I get ahead of it? And because you live and die by systems and you're highly efficient, you figured out like, I've got to implement all of
yeah,
this. But you didn't just execute overnight. So is it correct to say that first you looked at your current client and partner experience and you mapped out kind of systematically what are the different touch points and where do I communicate and where the human element come into play? Now, looking at that from tip to tail, how do I weave in AI components? Maybe that's taking over the Schedule C like you talked about, or a certain email or a summary call. Is that correct on kind of how you approached it?
percent. I think it also gives you, if you're somebody out there who's stuck and you don't know where to start, it's a great point to start in many different circumstances. But to your point, Katie, I think the biggest part, I get this question all the time, right? People come to me and they're like, where do I start? And I'm like, I really can't answer that question for you.
Mhm.
What I need you to do as a professional is I need you to write down what you do on a daily basis. Cause I do coaching too, frankly,
Yep.
for our partners for nothing, right? Just,
Mhm.
just a value offering. And I say, well, talk to me about your business. Like, what's your day look like, right? Your calendar is your CEO of your life. And what does your day look like? Is your calendar integrated with AI? And people will be like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, again, no matter what platform, because you hear me say this all the time, right? With some of the organizations that we have, where I'm like, I freaking hate when people talk crap about one platform or another.
Mhm.
I just truly think you're not optimizing it to a certain way. That's my unbiased opinion. But I'm going to tell you, okay,
So we can't
Listen
get in
to
a
it.
debate about Claude versus ChatGPT. I'm totally
I
kidding.
mean, I would, and I feel like also have that itch where I don't want to introduce another platform
Sure,
into
sure,
my
sure.
ecosystem because
I'm
I
kidding.
definitely don't. But check this out. So you got to write down what you do, right? In my opinion, every industry, whether it's real estate, whether it's financial advisory, whatever, it breaks down to those three core principles of sales, service, support, right?
Mhm,
So if you're going to use it in the client experience, I have never more been on the phone over the
mhm.
last year since we've really implemented artificial intelligence to our business than ever before, right? Because a lot of people are like, whoa, you're going to lose that client experience. I'm like, no, dude. I actually will sit there and be like, damn, I don't really have anything to do because the automation is there, because the ops is there, because the
That's
admins
so
are there, because growth
fascinating.
strategy is there. I can actually pick up the phone, and some of it might be like you've seen some of our stuff, right, with some of the
Yeah,
new platforms we've implemented, and it was literally, as to your point, implemented in like 24 hours. But now I see it. Now I actually kind of like a kid, like enjoyed picking up the phone and be like, "Hey, dude, did you see what I just sent you?"
yeah.
And then they're like, "Yeah, this is crazy." I'm like, "Okay, great. Well, do you have a couple minutes for me to explain everything to you?" Right?
Mhm,
And then go, boom, mortgage coach, total cost analysis. This is your savings in 60 months. This is your 15-year breakdown. This is that. The next one, this is a cost of waiting if you don't buy with MBS Highway. This is a real estate report card in the area. That. So, and what's funny is I used to kind of have a lot of that stuff on like automated part where the admins did it. Cool, they got it. That means they're looking at it. Now I've actually been picking up the phone and being like, hey, did you see this? And the clients are going to be like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. Perfect. That's what I'm here for, right? Is to explain it to you. And then depending on my audience, as I say, what's your preferred method of communication? One guy who had just got introduced yesterday from a referral partner who was at our event, she met with the client. And it's funny because my referral partners know how very modern day thinking we are. So they
mhm,
kind of warn me in advance where they're like, hey, by the way, just a heads up, he's a little bit older.
mhm.
So I'll know immediately. I'm still going to dial in my process because no matter what's going to be done, but I'm
Right.
also going to keep in mind that, all right, I got to be a little bit more forward thinking with this consumer and push him to want to come to my office and meet in person rather than just fire out or do Zoom or whatever the case may be. So
Okay. That's awesome. So, what I appreciate you saying is, I mean, we talk a lot, at least I hear a lot, that AI allows you to have leverage. And I
yeah,
think that absolutely there's merit to that statement, but I have also found that people that aren't as confident or proficient in using it, there is this expectation that just going to AI instantly, like it's going to be perfect. And I would imagine you've had to refine your processes and your prompts and some of your assistance over time, but with the goal that now it has paid off for you, that you're so efficient on the technical back end side that has freed you up to be more one to one and build relationship, which is the goal. So
exactly right.
my next question is, I'd say a lot of loan officers, they're almost hesitant, or we don't know what we don't know. So when it comes to a new tool or a new workflow, we have to slow down, learn it, incorporate it. And for loan officers that are buried in their business, a lot of times we don't have time to do that. So how do you actually get your team to be all in as well so that it's an all lift and not just task mastering and driving this?
It's a great question, right? The new tool that we just recently implemented, right? Where I had texted you, I'm like, oh, I know you. Took a little bit of time
What's the name of
to
that
figure
tool? I'll give them a shameless plug.
housing link. Shout
If
out to
you
Scott.
don't use it, go look it up. Scott Nicholson. Okay.
It's super, super cool. And it was kind of somewhat of a tool that, to your point, I didn't really know I needed.
Hmm.
And I was at a event for realtors that we were at, and one LO showed it to me. And it reminded me of a platform that I had seen 4 years ago. And it turned out to be the same as that platform, which is pretty funny. Um, and then I'm like, dude, you know what? I didn't need it 4 years ago because 4 years ago, just like 3 years ago, just like 2 years ago, just like a year ago,
Processes
we
were
started
different.
business
Yeah.
and we thought our shit was like bulletproof.
Right.
I think it's funny now as our businesses become more efficient, where you're like me, where we're like working till the final hour to refine it,
Hmm.
refine it even more. And I think the way that we do it, because remember, I'm a very heavy active producing originator as well, on top of the area manager with my branches. So when I sit there and tell you, yo, dude, I started doing this, this is the feedback from the referral partner. This is the feedback from the client. And this is literally one of the reasons why we're either saving time, we're up 210% net revenue year over year. So if you're a business owner, That's all I need to tell you. Or you're going to actually wait. So what I like to do from my perspective is kind of be that guinea pig for my originators. And I
Mhm.
say, hey, dude, I met this. It's working. Now I have 4 managers that are there to help implement, right? So we have our growth strategy who manages the admins. We have our business development manager who's hands on, who meets with our originators once a week and checks in. How's everything going? We have our sales manager who basically, when you're issuing a pre approval and you have a sticky situation and you need help, switch it to a 25-year, which is a cool little trick we just did on one deal that could not get approved at 30. We dropped the term to 300 months. Boom, AUS approved. You have a sales manager for that. And then we have the ops, which is post contract, right? So I think having that system and structure support, but I think it starts as us as leaders to be like,
Right.
hey, I want you to do this, not because I saw it at a trade show,
Yeah.
not because I watched something on a webinar. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to demo it. I'm going to build it in my model. And once I see that success where I can kind of, and this is where I think you and I probably share a sentiment of where we struggle, our minds move at like 100 miles per hour. So I have to remember like other people may not be as proficient in it. And I need to accept that and also understand that that's a weakness that I need to improve on.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I'm working on it. I built it. It's there. I think it's at a point now where I can also assign it to an admin or to one of the LP1's processors, and they can now show the loan officers that this is what Abdel's built. I'm going to show you, and we're going to have the 4 managers to teach you along the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and
Um,
that's cool because I mean, I always go back to, tech without leadership is just noise. I mean, how
yeah.
many times you talk to people, whether they're your referral partners or other loan officers, and when you start to get under the hood of what is your tech stack, it's like, man, we subscribe to all of the shiny tools, which don't get me wrong, in their own respect, they're all pretty amazing. But you
Sure.
can quickly be, yeah, on your tech stack and you're not executing. So I always advise like, hey, pare down and actually get really good at what you're using and then add on as you have the need or the capacity with your team so that, a lot of leaders, and I'd be curious your take on this. I think we go to the sales rally, we get on a webinar, we get amped, we see the potential, we implement it, meaning we pay for the subscription and then we kind of yo-yo our team, like we're going all
Yeah.
in. And then what do? We waterboard our team, we overload, and then we just end up not using. So where do you see loan officers making the noise? Like doing exactly what I had just said, or what would you say to that?
I think it falls under the leadership. It truly falls under the leader, branch manager, area manager, up to C-suite executives and stuff. I'll speak on my organization, right? PRMG is one that I think I've mentioned I've only been with, but we've also been one where from an organization perspective is our role is to grab every potential tool there is, right? And introduce it to you guys. Now, I think what we also have found too over the years is, hey, by the way, we've also realized that there's a lot going on, and I think that's where, as I'm sure most companies, is we need to somewhat like refine everything. We're still going to give you guys access to the tools. But what we've started doing over the last 2 years, as I know most companies have been doing, is at our sales rallies, instead of bringing some of the phenomenal speakers that you're usually used to, I'm seeing a lot of organizations highlight the originators that are
Mhm.
actually using this stuff,
Right.
right? Where instead of you bringing some of the awesome speakers that we've been used to for several years,
Sure.
what I'm noticing internally is companies are highlighting a modern day originator or
Mhm.
somewhat of a traditional originator. And I have found that to be the most powerful way to kind of get that buy-in because you're not hearing from an industry expert who has some type of vested interest based on a platform or based
Yeah.
on a coaching thing that they're doing. These originators are doing it on a day in, day out
They're in
basis.
the trenches with you. And yeah, I like that because I mean, I always call it the seagull effect. You can bring in these thought subject matter experts. They come in with their brilliant idea, they fly over you, drop their white stuff, and then they leave. And you're like, cool, I don't know that I'm actually better for that. I'm inspired, but am I actually going to implement? Versus what you're saying is, hey, this is peer to peer. There's a mutual respect because you, the originator, understands the pressure of the all of the things, right? So That's really cool. I want to switch gears a little bit and now just get into more of your business and some of the things that you're doing. So, you've talked about doing some really creative events like renting out a gym, doing manicures, which is cool, but very different, and hosting even cornhole events. So,
Yes.
that is a strategy. And I'd love to learn a little bit more. Like, how do you think about proximity and visibility as a business development tool?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're always big on the hyperlocal market. Can we land throughout the entire nation? Sure. Can I land throughout all of New Jersey? Sure. But which is the reason why we opened up two offices now in the same state, which is kind of like, why would you do that? Well, I have two strong presences in Monmouth County and Ocean County. And I had one, and my wife would complain because the office is 45 minutes away, and I'm in the office till 8, 9 o'clock at night, frankly. So what do? We open up another office 90 seconds away from my house, and it's across the street from my kids' school. So now my wife can't complain. That's a
Right.
whole other topic for a different conversation. Now, from a visibility perspective, I think I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, probably 3 years ago, was where in my business, social media was like the condo of like the topic of conversation, right? Where it was like you have to post, you have to do your reels, you have to do your combos, you have to do your YouTube, and you were reaching from such a huge wide net, right?
Yeah.
You're throwing it and you're hoping you're going to get the WWW audience, as I said, right?
Hmm.
We started doing a lot of hyper local events, right? And it started with your typical cliche in-person home buying seminar where it was like $50 a head. And there's a reason why I put that. And then you had 100 people and it's 5 grand. And then you're calling sponsors and you're calling this and you're calling that. And it's still a successful model. I just don't find it to be one where you're really truly providing that consistent value, whether it was to a partner or to an individual consumer, right? I think today's day and age, you're able to do that webinar style, which is what we've been doing consistently. Now, we started doing a lot of cool, unique stuff because it's Adele, and you know how I am.
Yep.
It can't be just happy hours and alcohol, and I'm trying to cut out booze, so I got to do better. So let's not do
Yeah.
happy hours.
Right.
But honestly, I'll be completely transparent. And of course, you're gonna laugh at this. Is I literally used AI to
Mhm.
be like, yo, what super freaking cool stuff can we do? Botox events for realtors. We did the Manny Petty. We're working on doing a daddy daughter rent out a salon. Dads can come do their daughter's hairs. Like cool stuff like that. You can't freaking tell me that
Mhm.
it's not gonna you're gonna send your husband put him on a plane ticket and come, right? Because you're
Right.
like, dude, that is so freaking cool, right?
Yep.
So I think that stuff, and then obviously investing back into the community is a
Yeah.
huge part, right? We've got our got mortgage cares, really to an extent helping out, right? And it's also I've got two kids, right? So I got to set that same example too. And if I can kind of use it at the same time where I'm doing it the same, satisfying my need as a father, while also showing the other outside community that it's not just money, right?
Yep.
It's not looking at the consumer or you as a referral partner from a dollar perspective. Those other business owners, which is where our mastermind literally grew from, those other business owners are going to flock to you because
Mhm.
they're going to be like, dude, what are you doing?
Right.
Like we're seeing you everywhere. And it's, I say the ROI, right? And it's not return on investment. It's, are you being relevant, omnipresence, and intimacy? So are you going to can you relate to your consumer? Can they find you more or less everywhere? You're omnipresence. And from an intimacy perspective, I'm not asking you to hook up with them. I'm asking you, can they relate to the content that you put out there? Do they feel like it's as authentic as it gets? Doesn't have to be behind a fancy green screen, doesn't have to be in a podcast studio. Can you walk your dog and shoot a video? And can I relate to you? Can you not have your hair perfectly done and in a
Mhm.
bun? And you look like complete dog shit, like I usually do half the time, and still have the need to be like, Rach just took a dump. I got to shoot a video and educate my clients and partners.
Which I love that because as a branding expert, I mean, my whole thing is you have to be relevant and you have to be natural. Like, if there's not
Yep.
congruency between who you are in real life and who you show up online, like, I mean, we're in a trust erosion economy, right? And so when people can replace themselves with AI, where your voice can be replicated, your photos, your video, if you use AI to replace you, AI is going to replace you. So
Yes.
by you finding strategies different is better than better, right? So finding the
Exactly.
ways to stand out because, I always go back to something that Gary Vee said, where he said, there are no niches, there are no original ideas, like everything's been done. And when you look around, you scroll social media and you look just
Sure.
especially within the mortgage industry, that's largely true. Like it's really hard to stand out. The only thing that hasn't been done is you. So you, like Abdel, like it would be impossible for me to just come and completely replicate your model because you, how you talk, your energy, all of that
Yeah.
is your secret sauce. But I love that you're doing more in-person events. And that's the other thing I would say is I'd be curious, now with everybody having the same access to a $20 ChatGPT subscription and this brilliant thought leader in their pocket, it's noisy. And so by you going, "Hey, how can I deplatform? Like, how can I take events off social media and
Yeah.
get face to face?" is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Very
Yeah,
needed.
it's pretty cool, because you kinda get the blend between everything, right? And I think in today's day and age, you do, to an extent, have to cater to that. Now, you're gonna identify a niche, but again, like I always say, what's your preferred method of communication? As I
Mhm.
say to my clients, I think with a referral partner, it's the same way. What's your preferred method of us to engage? What's your preferred method of us reaching out? And you could do a combo of everything, guys, right? There's no one right way, like I said earlier, to be successful. I think the one non-negotiable though is you got to implement these modern day strategies, right? With tech and with AI, or it's a non-negotiable in today's market, right?
Yeah.
There's just no. It's the computer translation of what it was previously. It's the DocuSign translation of when you used to wet sign. It's the calculator efficiency. And this is one that, I mean, we're seeing it already on the employment market, right? The
Yeah.
employment market is taking a dump, and it's not because of inflation. It's mainly because of the adoption of these huge companies from an efficiency perspective too, right? Things are
Yeah.
getting done, things are being done faster, more efficient, and the thing that robots can't take away from us is us. It's our
Mhm.
personality, conversation, it's our relations to people,
Yeah.
and having that in your arsenal will make you successful.
And I think about that too. I mean, I was just talking to a group of realtors earlier this week, and I gave the example of using AI to make a video double of you or photos and creating a social media post. And that's fine. If that's your jam and you do that, that's fine. But what that video can't do, and exactly what you're touching on, is that video can't sit across from a wife who just lost her husband and is now having to make the decision, do I sell the home that we raised our kids in to downsize and to,
Yeah, exactly.
have a better financial strategy and less maintenance? But there's such a high emotional attachment and there's grief involved. And like, that's real people. Like, we're in the people business and the mortgage and the home is just the vehicle that, we use. And that's something that AI will never be able to tap into. So for people
100%.
listening that are like thinking about AI and where we're headed, I always like to remind people of, yes, AI brings an efficiency, but like you still have to have the heart and be very much involved in your process. So,
Yes.
okay, so another question I have for you is, clearly you're a team leader, you are in the top 1%, you coach, you've been coached, like you're doing all of the things that a top producer would do to get to where you are. And that's a hard balance, especially because you still have two kids at home. So what's
Yeah.
one thing that you've had to give up and let go of to build that team, knowing that you're one person and you can't touch everything?
That's a great question, which is great because I've never gotten that. I think one is definitely, I think I said it earlier, right? The understanding that I can't do anything. I cannot be the bottleneck in my business. And I need to accept the fact that I'm not going to be able to be maybe the first touch with a client, but
Mhm.
my team is extremely regimented and structured to ensure that that client does not feel that as a disadvantage. but actually to an extent feels it as, man, what a blessing. I mean, you've called me maybe once or twice and I didn't answer and it goes to my office, right? Like I don't have a voicemail.
No,
I haven't had a voicemail.
I have never called you and not gotten you, which is surprising. So challenge accepted.
All
I'm
right.
going to
So
now try, but you're
next time I see your name, I'm gonna be
too
like,
available.
"That's this." But that's great. So a lot of times, if I don't answer, it goes to my phone. So that was one thing that I had to accept, right? Because most of us will say, "Well, they can't talk like me, and my originators can't do this." That was one big part where I had to accept the fact that I need to be able to delegate efficiently, right?
Mhm.
But I also need to be able to train my team to somewhat be regimented to speak like me, talk like me, text like me, literally email like me, set expectations, right? We have a regimented post contract. Cause I think pre-sales, you've heard me say this maybe several times, right? There's essentially like a 4-step process to a consumer experience. We first talk to them completing an application. They got an application, they got pre-approved, they found the
Mhm.
house, got an offer, the offer got accepted to closing, and then post closing. So I always think the first kind of like, or the first two experiences, initial touch, pre-approval, finding a house, is kind of like your own personality, right? You're going to put the efficiencies, you're going to put that, but the client wants to talk to you, right? Obviously, I'm in East Coast, Jersey. There's like 3 houses for sale, right? So the hardest part is I need to make sure that client, they're not going to give a shit about your birthdays and emails and stuff like that. They want to feel like they can have a conversation and vent to you, right? Let's be honest. I need to put mortgage lender, comma, therapist, comma, best friend, comma, drink buddy, right? And my clients all feel that way, right?
Mhm.
So that's a hard part where I had to kind of accept that I'm not going to be able to get to everybody, but I damn well will not ever let a day pass. It's in my calendar, 7 p.m., missed calls and emails for me to get back. So I
Mm.
literally will get notified. The admins will text me and tell me, hey, don't forget to get back. And I literally go in my iPhone, click on missed calls, and I will text. Even if I'm like, did I call this person or not? Did I text or did I email? I will still pick up the phone and call them. But yo, dude, I know we've been emailing back and forth. I know you called me and I missed your call. Did I miss anything? And they're like, no, we already got it. Perfect. And it's funny because when I call them and they're like, yo, you already got back to me. Cool. All right. Because they know it's
Yeah.
coming. My
Yeah.
core part, they know at between 7 to 8, I'm regimented in that time frame where I'm going to get back to you. So that was one thing. Another part was like I don't make the initial calls to clients or partners. They will do the calls for me and then transfer the calls. That was a big part too, right? They're plugged in my calendar. There's extension to my calendars. Obviously, chat gives me the reminder. A different platform texts me and tells me they do too, but they are the first touch. So if you're someone out there, that's a very big touch that I've learned, because how many times have we sat there, we're in the weeds, building a deal,
Mhm.
putting a fire out, whatever the case may be. And then you look and you're like, fuck, I forgot to call that client at 3 o'clock and it's now
Right.
6. That client, especially if it was a consumer direct client, that client's left, dude. You lost me.
Yeah.
Or you got to beg for forgiveness, or you got to go back to your referral partner and say, sorry, dude, I got busy.
Yeah.
That was one thing, a huge shift where I'm like, all right, I need to build out a regimented approach. We use Calendly, like I know you do, and all that automation, but it still loses the human element,
Yeah.
right? Remember, whether people are talking directly to you or they're talking to an assistant, for them to call, transfer them over, and you
Yeah.
speak and stay on the call to take notes.
Yep.
That was the old approach, right? We use Ring Central. They would stay on the call, they would transfer, they would take notes and update the CRM. We don't have to do that anymore because the calls are recorded. And
Yeah.
now the AI transcription is going into the CRM. And it kind of works off of the basis of that. But I think you really need to be one to constantly
Right.
innovate. Stuff
Well,
that
and
I taught.
just when you get comfortable with your process, right? The workflows change, the technology change. There's constant disruption. And I think that's hard in our industry because we're wearing so many hats. The loan officer has to prospect, you have to keep your deals going through the current pipeline, then you need to nurture your past clients and all of these things. And so to add in there, I've got to be a thought leader and an influencer and learning AI and it is a lot, but that's kinda just the nature of the beast. But what I hear you saying is you adapt to a growth mindset. You are
Yes.
constantly figuring out, "Okay, how can I be better?" And knowing that, it's not gonna happen overnight, but you're making these micro tweaks that, you didn't have to just incorporate everything all at once into in one day. You're constantly pushing that. that envelope forward. So for someone listening right now, so let's say they're a loan officer and they're grinding in a tough market because it still has its own
Right.
challenges today. And let's say they feel behind on tech or maybe content or relationships. We've touched on all of that. What's one thing that you tell them to do first? Like, not a list, but like, what's one thing that you could tell them to do?
Listen, I mentioned it in passing earlier. The first thing you need to do, sit down, grab a pen and paper, and write down what does your calendar look like on a day-to-day basis,
Hmm.
and then break it down again into the core principles of sales, service, support. I will say it till I am blue in the face because you will break it down, and then now you identify where, from a sales perspective, where your lead source is coming from. Right?
Hmm.
You might think that real estate agent that you think is super loyal to you and you could run model match on them and find out, damn, they ain't that loyal, right?
Hmm.
Or you sign them up on list reports or you sign them up on home reports and find out like, shit, they're cheating on me
Yeah.
because they're just closed a transaction at 123 Main Street and they didn't use me and they were on the buyer side, right?
Hmm.
That is ways that you use tech, guys. Like that is ways that you got to be smart. But I can't sit here and tell you to go and download or subscribe or whatever it
Right.
is, sign a contract with Model Match and MBS Highway and List Reports and Mortgage Coach and Uplist and this and that. And that's funny, Kate, because that was how I was before, was I would spit out so much shit. And I'm like, guys, before I can even tell you, because you might be a very big consumer direct driven professional.
Right.
And I'll be completely honest, I would maybe recommend you to a different manager within my ecosystem that is extremely consumer direct, right?
Hmm.
That is
Hmm.
going to be a little bit more on the cost efficiencies
Hmm.
of pay per click and you're quick to convert, which I track too, but I'm not that master at it. What I'm kind of building out is like I want to be in your face, right? Like I want that
Hmm.
belly to belly conversation. I want you to feel I want you to see a 6'2", 280-pound gorilla in front of you who's talking with his hands and having conversations with you and
Right.
showing you that I really give a shit and there's empathy behind a bad situation or a divorce or you having a kid. And a big part, Kate, and I know you're really good at this like me, is we do our research before we go in a meeting, right?
Mhm.
Before you came in, which is why I was like 20 seconds late, which bothers me. But we had a group of financial advisors, two dudes. We had met. My loan officers did a post on social.
Mhm.
Hey, Got Mortgages team is looking for financial advisors. Do you guys have any recommendations? What do you think happened?
Yeah.
A plethora of potential financial advisors colleagues. One of them had reached out to one of my originators and said, hey, want to meet? Sure. As I always have my loan officers, is tap me in, right?
Mhm.
Get me involved because I want you as an originator to feel the support. And I'm going to be biased here and say a lot of loan officers don't get that,
Mhm.
right? You're in
Mhm.
many instances sometimes competing with your branch manager,
Yeah.
or you're in many instances just like this fucker. I haven't talked to him in like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
right? That approach, I think, is huge. Then you break it down to service. Where are you at in
Mhm.
your business? You have to get involved in calculating your income,
Mhm.
right? You have to get involved in drafting letter of explanations. Do you have to get involved in now? Again, we're not going to take away the huge element of it, but
Right.
how long did it take us before to calculate a Schedule E on a property when a client had 7 properties?
Right.
Sucked, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, all right, I got to pay rental minus expenses plus took a long time. Now we built it out where it doesn't really have to take time. No, check your work, right? Just like when we were kids, right? We were taught to do math with our fingers, and I still do it till this day. My daughter, messes with me all the time. Where I still do
Yeah.
my math. I'm like 7. All right, close. Okay.
But you're not wrong.
And
So there you go.
I get the answer, and I'm no longer allowed to do homework with her, by the way, because I think it was about 4 years ago where I did the homework for her, and it was all wrong. Like the answers were correct, but the
Yeah.
way to show your work.
Yeah.
So I got kind of banned from doing her homework, which I'm not complaining about. And then the support side, guys, social media. Katie, I don't know your take. I despise video avatars. I think it is. I think again, and some people
Yeah.
might use it and it might work. I'm not a fan. I think
Mhm.
that's when you're really like, hey, bro, I'm so freaking busy for you that I don't have the time to pick up my
Mhm.
phone and shoot a personal customized video
Yeah.
for you.
I
That's my
mean,
take.
I have the same sentiment. I'm not an originator, but as a brand strategist, when I come in and I look at that, I'm like, again, going back to we're in a high trust poor environment just in the industry. And then you add in the layer of social media, you add in, different demographics and ages, you add in AI, like it is a uphill battle to establish trust and
Yes.
credibility all, on the line. So now when I look at, I'm like, hey, I already am going into the gate not trusting you as much. And if I look and see that your content is an AI video, that signals to me that you don't have the time or the care to record a video yourself, or maybe you're not confident enough to lean into just the ums and the stutters. I'm like, but that's how you are in person, and I want to establish trust. I want to see that, like, you're picking up kids in carpool. Like, it's just what you see is what you get. So I would be with you in that same philosophy. Now, there are people here, I'm sure, listening that use AI video very well and it works for them. So I say lean
Sure.
into what you're doing, but tread lightly, understanding that, if the lip sync is off or what have you, you could lose credibility. And the problem with that is 9 out of 10 times you're never going to know that somebody stops following you or isn't going to send you the lead because they just silently exit.
Yeah.
So I would wholeheartedly agree with you with that. Okay, last question. We're going to land the plane. It's been a great conversation. Okay, so I'm asking this as someone I've like watched you and your business up close. We're in conversations every week pretty much. What are you building toward? Like, let's envision 5 years from now. What does the version of Abdel look like that you're wanting to build?
Dude, I can't tell you what the vision looks like in 5 minutes because it's constantly changing.
Perfect.
I think for me, my core focus is on efficiency from a revenue perspective and really from how much, and I don't know if I got to figure out a phrase for this, but how can I dummy down my mind moving at 200 miles per hour?
Mhm.
Right. And it's such a challenge
Yeah.
because I think I don't expect everybody to wake up at 4. I don't expect
Mhm.
everybody to just move at the rate of just whatever. Right. And there might be people moving 100% faster than us, which I freaking love. I think it's just having an open mindset to being like, okay, damn, dude, I just put this whole SOP together and now this platform integrated with this one. So I don't really need that one anymore. So I
Mhm.
got to now do it. And I think that's where we've been really picking up a lot of steam with our originators, with our partners is, yo, guys, I don't want you guys in the lab. I want you guys to do what you do best, which is talking to clients and originating. I will be the person in the lab, still
Mhm.
originating,
Yep.
still creating fun environments. Like we have environments like who's going to beat Abdel to the office, who's going to stay later than Abdel,
Yep.
although I've gotten really good at that. So my wife,
Yeah.
my wife's busting my ass on that.
I
And finding
touched.
that balance,
Mhm.
right? Finding that there's no work life balance. Whoever says it, you're full of shit. And if you do, call me right now.
I will buy whatever you're selling, but if
Yeah.
you have kids
Yeah.
and you're in the mortgage space and you're slaying loans, like, there really isn't a such thing as a balance.
It's tough, and I think, we've really gotten to a point where that client experience is pretty awesome.
Mhm.
We've been spending a lot of time with just, as you know, right? Well, I'll share with you like digital brand strategies that we've been doing for partners, frankly, out of the kindness of the relationship and the
Mhm.
value. And then I'm like, all right, you guys like this? Cool. Um, are you guys gonna be able to do this on your own? No, just like a
Yeah.
dentist, right? You got to go and get them. Now you're gonna go to Katie, and Katie's gonna tell you guys how to actually do it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of where we've been seeing a lot of success and speaking to the masses more of like, I want my time and energy to be built on that while I could keep building efficiency tools for my originators, right? Without them
Yeah.
having to somewhat figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, guys, like, I got it. And some don't use it a certain way. And I'm okay with that, right? Show me what you guys have in mind, especially from those two verticals, right? Of the pre contract side. Show me what you got because, dude, I might pick up a nugget or two. And again,
Yeah.
I don't care if you're in the business for 20 years or 20 seconds. We didn't all grow up the same way,
Right.
right? So you might think of things and I'm like, dude, that was freaking awesome. You know what? That's a great recommendation. I might do it for my business
Yeah.
because you might, the call a client once they don't answer, hang up, call again, then leave a voicemail, right? I used to
Mhm.
call the first time and leave a voicemail until I remember hearing that saying, whatever it was. I'm like, oh, that's actually a great idea. Or call,
Yeah.
then well, the second time, don't answer, then text them and be like, hey, is this Katie?
Yeah.
Small little tactics and having that love to always look to, I need to improve
Right.
every freaking day.
Yeah.
Um,
I
like,
mean, it's the cliche of be better every day, but when that is your kind of your ethos in one of your codes, you see that, and that's those micro tweaks that, okay, what's one takeaway that I can implement? What's one thing that I can be working towards? And then having the goal to just live that as a lifestyle. If that is your core code, then you naturally will become that because that's what you're doing. So
yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you for today. I hope that anybody listening got lots of takeaways because there's a lot that you're doing. Question for those that heard something on this podcast and they want to dig deeper with you, what's the best way? Like Instagram, email, like how could somebody get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to find us online, but
Okay.
Instagram got_mortgages, gotmortgages.com. You can email me directly, gotmortgages@prmg.net.
Okay.
Um, Again, I'm an open playbook, guys, right? Katie, I share stuff all the freaking time. I'm like, yo, dude, what do you think? We even run a small little core group here in Jersey. Loan Officer is a Hero. It's about 8 or 9 different mortgage professionals as well, from
Hmm.
high level executives to day to day originators, and we're just collaborating, exchanging ideas. There's no, as I said earlier in the pod, there's no right way to do business,
Yeah.
right? And if you're not successful, or even if you're not, I still want to hear what you're doing, because I might pick up a nugget or two or give a
Yeah.
recommendation or two that I didn't get when I first started, right?
Well, and I like the statement, and again, it is a cliche as well, but better together, right? And I think a lot of times people, I don't feel it so much in this industry, but people tend to like go inward and they protect their secret sauce. And actually, if you have a heart of service, which you very much do, we really are better together. So it's like, hey, let's collaborate, let's share. So we'll put all of the links below on how you can connect with Abdel. As you heard him say, he's up at 4 a.m. He's East Coast time. So if you text him or email him, we're not going to put his phone number, but if you reach out to him, you most likely will get a response by the end of the day. So thanks so much, Abdel, for joining us. And we will be on next episode. So make sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.